I'm a fan of wrestling. Well, that's kind of hard to believe considering I'd never told anybody about my interests, but when I was invited to go to an AEW show that was going to take place in Garland, Texas, I had to take my friends up on that offer. It was my first official show that I was there, and, well, I was in the audience when Nick Gage made his appearance. You can kind of see us a little bit in the video. But what does that have to do with today's video? Well, during the last few days that we were in the Dallas area, we were invited to go check out the National Videogame Museum in Dallas, Texas. This, to me, was an exciting opportunity to not just check out the rare and obscure oddities that were a part of our history, but just the general history of video games altogether. And you'll kind of see a theme with that in today's video. So, with that being said, welcome to the Uncommon Valley as we look to the past into the present. And on this edition, we take a look at 3 individual oddities obtained for view that you have to see to believe. These are my personal favorite items from the National Videogame Museum. Special packaging in gaming isn't anything new, but back in the 90s it was something special to obtain. Distributed by QVC in 1994, only 5,000 of these were made in total, with 2,500 being printed for SNES and 2,500 being made for Sega Genesis owners, though the official print run of these are not disclosed. One of the notable items that is a part of this print is the big SpiderMan Carnage book. What's unique about it? Well, it doesn't necessarily bear any Marvel Limited imprint. Its production quality and publication period coincide with the prestigious Marvel Limited line. It has been widely considered by many, including heavy collectors in the comic book industry, to be the lost book of the Marvel Limited line. To comic book enthusiasts' great misfortune, this was only made exclusively for the Marvel Limited Edition itself. The book has a lot of reprints of the various Carnage appearances during his early Amazing Spider-Man run in issues 344, 45, 59, and then issues 360 through 63, which would occur in the same comic storyline as the video game's name uses. Among other items included are 3 individual pins of Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage, a sealed box copy for either Super Nintendo or Genesis depending on what the person chose, and a certificate of authenticity of it being sold in smaller numbers. One of the main reasons I chose this was because Maximum Carnage is one of my favorite beat-em-ups of all time, and also being a big comic book collector. Kind of like a best of both worlds kind of thing. Nowadays, limited and special editions of video games or for consoles are in the commonplace, but items like this and Earthbound are primary examples of something new and original to help celebrate a franchise's release. One of the coolest things about this museum is being able to check out the various video game consoles that have released over the years. But among one of those things that I was most excited to check out were some that were only released in China. A Famiclone to be exact. This is the top guy. It is of course the first recorded Famiclone handheld with its own built-in LCD screen. predating the Game Axe by several years. The screen comes in at 2.7 inches, although its quality is debatable depending on who you ask. Said to have mixed opinions from very blurry to incredibly clear. It can also be connected to a TV via RF cable or wirelessly via an antenna. It's been said that with the antenna you would be able to watch TV on the go, which many companies like Sega to NEC would also implement for their portable consoles in the 90s. It accepts 60-pin Famicom cartridges and additionally has a 9-pin controller port and 15-pin expansion port. For portable use, it would require 6 AAA batteries, which are said to last only 1 hour, but can also be connected to DC power. According to the Super Gamer magazine article, only 1,000 of these were ever produced, and some to even be handmade. Not manufactured by machine, but by actual humans. Companies like Hyperkin and Analog nowadays have consoles that are able to play retro gaming carts on the go, but back in those days it was something futuristic. While it wasn't an officially licensed Nintendo product, the Top Guy would help open up a market in the gaming industry that companies nowadays embrace for a broader audience, and to allow us to be able to play the games of the past into the present. Video gaming history is so broad and expansive, it's honestly hard to cover over every single individual item that is in those hallowed halls. One of the key items that I put on this list is very special and near and dear to a lot of video gamers' hearts. And if you know of this name, you know of how relevant it is to video game history. This is the brown box. Now, when you look at this particular item, you think it might just be a doorstep with some electrical equipment wired. But it's hard to believe, but this was the first prototype video game console ever produced. While on the wall you see many different consoles during the first 2 generations of gaming, there's one notable item that is placed front and center that properly encases the true history of where video games got their start. This wooden brown block console. This was produced by Ralph Baer and his team in 1967, and it was a developed prototype for the first multiplayer, multi-program video game system. Since his team hoped to have licensed the technology for a commercial venture, Ralph Baer, its main creator, understood that the games had to not only be fun for investors, but for consumers, or they would not have any interest whatsoever. And during one interview, Ralph Baer said, "The minute we played ping pong, we knew we had a product. Before that, we weren't too sure." While the name of the unit was originally called TV Game Unit 7, it would later be changed to the brown box based on its wood grain vinyl look to attract potential investors. While very simple in design, it was able to program itself in a variety of games with the arrangement of switches located on the front of the console. Program cards would later be included in order to show what combinations were needed for certain games. The games included were ping pong, checkers, a variety of sports games, target shooting with its own realistic light gun, and golf putting. They pushed the idea over to Magnavox and would eventually be greenlit for release as the Magnavox Odyssey in 1972, becoming the first commercially released video game console ever released. So, a lot of people, unfortunately, have no recollection of this system, or in fact of it ever having any sort of relevance in video gaming history. And it's very sad and unfortunate because Ralph Baer did have a legacy aside from the Magnavox Odyssey. Did you also know that he made the Simon electronic game system? While people will regard the Atari 2600 as the first video game console to receive massive success, and Nintendo for saving it from the brink of collapse, it was really this wooden console that truly paved the way for how consoles would get their real start. Ralph Baer is regarded to this very day as the father of the video gaming industry, and because of him and his team doing something so spectacular that it would eventually become one of the biggest entertainment industries out there. And while there are things like the PlayStation 5 and the Oculus VR headsets out there, the brown box will forever be recognized as the true innovative piece of tech that the world may never know. That is it for this edition of the Uncommon Valley. Thank you for watching as we look to the past into the present.